Hello and welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport. Today was the Austrian Grand Prix, which I've just finished watching. It literally finished about 10 minutes ago, and we're going to discuss some of the main talking points from that race, which there are plenty. It was a bit more exciting than the Styrian Grand Prix at the same track last week. There was quite a lot going on, but once again it was a Max Verstappen domination. And we will discuss that, Mercedes, a couple of the incidents from the race, and what it means for the championship in this video. So remember to subscribe and let's begin.
Welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport.
I think we'll start at the top, and this was, again, probably the most dominating display from Max Verstappen we've ever seen. No one touched him all weekend. Lando Norris came close in qualifying, and we'll get to Lando in a minute. But Max Verstappen, pole position, in the race, he led from the start, created a gap, and then no one got close at all, to the point where he was able to pit and still be 10 seconds clear of second place. Secure fastest lap as well. All good for his championship. And honestly, after this, 3 races in a row, 3 races in 3 weeks, I should say, and Verstappen has won all of them in pretty dominant fashion. Maybe France was a bit of hard work, but he still did it pretty easily in the end. And this was just the easiest. This was a Hamilton-like level of demolition job to the competition, where I think if he hadn't pitted, he would easily have been 30 to 40 seconds ahead of the field. Absolutely fantastic for his championship. He has a good lead now going into Silverstone, which will be a very interesting one. Hamilton and Mercedes tend to do well at Silverstone. I don't know if the track just suits both the Mercedes car and Hamilton's driving style, or it's the home crowd, or whatever it is. To me, it's their track. It's Mercedes' home track. And for Verstappen to beat them there, if that happens, we can start to think about, well, this could be the year. Finally, Max Verstappen is champion. If it doesn't happen, I don't think it's the end of the world. There's still a long way to go in this championship. We're not even halfway yet. And it feels like, Red Bull have done something special this year with the development of their car. It'll be interesting to go into next year, the reset essentially, see who ends up where. But the championship this year is absolutely thrilling to watch unfold, even when the races haven't been as interesting. Hamilton at this race, he was off the pace all weekend really. He qualified 4th, and even though he got past Norris, it took 20 laps, and then some kind of damage to his car has really damaged his title hopes, and dropping behind Bottas and Norris, and clearly he was well off the pace because they both got past him fairly easily. In fact, I think Hamilton sort of gave up with Norris and team orders. I think it was obviously better for Bottas to get through so he can get away from Norris a bit. That has hurt Mercedes' title challenge, especially as Sergio Perez did not have the best race ever. I don't know what he was trying to do, going around the outside of Lando Norris. It was always going to end up with him in the gravel. I don't think it was a penalty. In fact, all 3 of the cars being run wide penalties, so the 1 for Norris and 2 for Perez, none of them should have been penalties. They were all fair. It's a risk of going around the outside. It's racing. Just get on with it. But I'm not going to argue with Derek Warwick because he's a tough old guy, and I would want to be the last person to tell him he was wrong. So you have to accept your penalties, I suppose. Perez still managed to get 6th, I think. I think he did drop behind Sainz after the penalties were applied. But I think that's enough to give Red Bull another few extra points in the Constructors' title ahead of Mercedes, because Hamilton finished 4th. So it's still going strong for them there as well. Norris was absolutely fantastic all weekend. Definitely driver of the day. Qualifying 2nd and only like 6 thousandths of a second off Verstappen, or 600ths, whatever it was. That's incredible. He could almost be called a front runner in this race. he was. I mean, as much as it is Red Bull versus Red Bull versus Mercedes, McLaren are edging closer. Norris wasn't far off their pace, so he did a fantastic job. Deserved another podium. I think he might still be 4th or 5th in the championship. Definitely 5th. I can't remember if he stays ahead of Bottas. I know that was getting pretty close. Bottas, this was a good race for him, but he's still Mercedes' second driver and well off the pace of Verstappen. But Norris is doing an incredible job this year. Points finishes at every round so far. He's securing that best of the rest position in the championship. I don't even think he's that far behind Perez and Bottas. So if he can keep that going the rest of the year, he deserves some kind of accolade. I'd actually really like to see Russell and Norris in the Mercedes next year. It's a shame Hamilton's kind of signed that contract. Because there's so many great young drivers coming through and not really enough seats to accommodate them all. There are a lot of old guys on this grid. I think I said that in an earlier video, where Hamilton's been around since 2007, Vettel as well, Raikkonen and Alonso have been around since the early 2000s. There's a lot of guys who it'd kind of be nice to say goodbye to and get some young blood on the grid, because there's so many great young drivers coming through and not enough space to accommodate them all. The other alternative would be to get some more Formula 1 teams, which would be nice. Obviously, tough financial climate to do that in after everything that's gone on over the last year and a bit. It's a shame that, you know, we're not going to see a whole host of new teams, but it's been a long time since we had that in Formula 1, where there seems to be new teams trying to get on the grid every year, probably back to the early 90s really. That was when you had the big massive fields where not every car could even get on the grid. Most of them were rubbish, and it's probably best that we are moving away from those days, but it's still a shame in terms of seats available. For the rest of the field, Ferrari did a good job, and I think strategy was their main strength at this race, which is rare to say for Ferrari. Sainz did a fantastic job running long on the hard tyre and then switching to the quick tyre at the end and getting those places back. Definitely deserved 5th place. Leclerc scored points as well, so another double points finish for Ferrari. They are going to struggle to keep up with McLaren though, as long as Norris keeps scoring points. Ricciardo did a good enough job. I think it's probably hurting his ego to be so far behind Norris, but obviously he has changed to a new team and has to kind of get settled in. That takes time, so he's putting in good enough performances and securing McLaren's 3rd in the Constructors, which is the job he's employed to do. Everyone else, Aston Martin, I was very disappointed by. I thought they were on a bit of a roll recently. I don't know what happened with Raikkonen and Vettel at the end. That looked insane. It looked like Raikkonen just didn't know he was there and turned in. Very messy for the last lap. Probably, I mean, it didn't cost them anything because they went in the top 10. Might get Raikkonen a penalty, I suppose. But it was very, very messy. Who haven't we talked about? AlphaTauri, disappointed by them as well. I thought they had a lot of pace. Gasly looked quick. Didn't seem to happen in the race, and strategy seemed to work against them. Yuki Tsunoda made a couple of stupid mistakes and got penalties. But I don't think he was anywhere anyway. I think after that debut in Bahrain where he looked fantastic, he's not really maintained that level. He's still good. I still think he's a really, really good driver. But I'm guessing it takes time to get used to Formula 1. He's definitely doing better than Nikita Mazepin and Mick Schumacher. Although with the Haas, it's hard to tell how good they are. Although with Mazepin, he's been last all year, so it'd be interesting to see if that last lap crash with Vettel and Raikkonen elevated Latifi enough to get above Mazepin in the driver's standings. Because I think Latifi has been last on a technicality, really. And, you know, Mazepin deserves his rightful place at the bottom of the table. Actually, talking about Williams, Russell did a fantastic job. It's a real shame he didn't get points this weekend. Q3 for a Williams for the first time in, I think it was 3 years. That's quite shocking, but Russell did a brilliant job. Really looked like he had the pace to get points, and he was only a few laps away from doing it, but he got caught by Alonso. And Alpine, this wasn't their best weekend ever. They'll be lucky to get a point, really. Not really much else to say. Giovinazzi didn't really do anything all weekend. I think he's the only one we haven't talked about. Pretty sure. I probably missed someone. I tend to miss someone. But yeah, this was a much more exciting race than last week. I think Perez getting dropped in the gravel at the start kind of put a damper on it. if he had stayed near the top, I think he would have got Norris if he just kept following him for a bit. And then we could have had a Red Bull 1-2 and a big blow to Mercedes in the Constructors. But Red Bull are in a strong position so far. They just need to keep it going. That is a big ask in Formula 1 against Mercedes. It'll be interesting to see. If they got 2 weeks till Silverstone, I think Mercedes will come back stronger. So I think Silverstone is going to be a very good Grand Prix to watch. Other than that, I don't think there's too much more else to say. The championship is ramping up. It is intriguing, and it is. I think the rest of the year is going to be fairly exciting. I think there's going to be a lot of incidents to come. I think we had a very slow start to the year, and I think it's kind of building up to something big happening. I think we'll see that at the end, towards the end of the year. But I'm going to keep watching. Hopefully you will too. Formula 1 has its downsides, but this was a really good race. As for the following week, I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. I've got a bit of a sore throat and I feel like I've got a bit of a cold coming on, which won't help any kind of videos I make. But I'll probably try and get a few out next week. I don't know what racing's on next weekend because I haven't really looked yet. I think Formula E might be on, so we'll watch that. And there'll be a couple other videos. So remember to subscribe. Thank you everyone who has. We're already hurtling towards 500, so you know, hit that button right now. I dare you. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Who do you think is going to be champion? Do you think Verstappen can keep this up, or do you think Hamilton is sort of just biding his time, waiting to strike? Will he be able to catch back up again? So yeah, tell me down in the comments below. We'll do like a little poll and talk about it in the next video. Other than that, you know, thank you for watching and have a good one.